So this training, oh, and Erin is here. I don't,
Hi.
we we were trying to get all the technology set up, so she was running around doing that. But so we'll both be here for this training. This is module 2 of our Deeper into Typing seminar series, as most of you know. And this one will be focusing on archetypes, character structures, communication styles, and facial microexpressions. And we're going to explain what all of those things are. We have a lot packed into this 3-hour training. So, um, let me know if I'm going too fast. We just want to make sure we get through all the information. And you all will probably have questions about this stuff, but I think after we get through it, you will have a strong grasp of what it is that we're talking about. Okay, so in this module, we're going to talk mostly about, just briefly touch on the value of other systems, which I think we talked about before, the character archetypes, character structures, micro expressions, and like I said, the communication styles or language. And that we're going to show you mostly through showing you some examples of the Ennead style questionnaire, which was what you took when you took the Enneagram test before. So we'll look at a few of those at the end just to give you a feel of how language plays into these typings. So we're going to move straight into talking about the character archetypes, or the roles, sometimes the archetypal roles they're called. So archetypes are universal symbols that are easily recognizable by most people regardless of culture. So a lot of you are probably familiar with Carl Jung, who was the first to kind of talk about these archetypal energies in the way that we use them today in sort of modern psychological language. So character archetypes, as we're going to discuss them, are the basic roles that human beings play in the world. And why this is important with the Enneagram is because people can have different character archetypes than their Enneagram type suggests. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Character archetypes are innate psychological, energetic, and bodily prototypes that sort of overlay on the human body, and the human sort of psychological structure. And so what we're going to look at today is how to recognize the archetypes right off the bat, just from their sort of facial features. And we're going to show you lots of different examples of these different character archetypes as we go through.
What we do want to stress ahead of time is that most people have at least two main archetypes. A lot of people have three, and sometimes they can mix together, and as we go through the examples, you'll see kind of what they look like and you'll learn to recognize them. But just remember that some of them are going to be really obvious, but others are going to be a little bit harder to detect, especially if the archetype runs counter to the person's type. So that can kind of be confusing when typing.
Yes. It appears that these archetypes or these roles sort of rose out of an evolutionary need to have all aspects of societal life filled. And so these roles that we'll see, each one plays a particular role in the culture or in a society, and it appears that the body sort of formed around these roles. It's very, very interesting. So now we'll move on to the king or queen archetypes. So here the focus is on leading. So even if they're not official leaders, they're going to seem like they're taking charge, but it's not in the way that we think of with eights necessarily. There's more of a regal feel to the king and queen archetype. They can seem very polished. They're often very polite and appropriate, so that it seems one-ish. Benevolent and commanding. They have good troubleshooting skills. Often very charismatic, and they sort of lead people to excellence through example. So they sort of show you how to be by behaving that way, which is what a good leader does. Managerial, and they can galvanize people toward a goal. Protective also, but not like the warrior. They're not going to go out necessarily and pull out the sword. They're diplomats, and they're able to kind of, it just seems like somebody who should be in charge of something. They have a king or queen quality about them. It's group focused. They often see themselves as focusing on group, protecting a group. That sometimes on the low side they can see other people as their subjects and them as the sovereign, so it can devolve there, or they can be aloof or haughty, and they can sort of do the where I'm going to do this and you do what I tell you, and then they sort of move away from leading by example, and so they may be excessive with themselves while other people are suffering, and that's obviously on the lower side of the archetypal energy. Enneagram associations, ones often have this archetype, so we'll see it a lot with ones, and if they they may seem like ones or look like ones because there's a very regal, upright quality about them. And eights often will have it. Um, Eight is probably usually more associated with the warrior archetype, actually, but social eights, my grandfather's a social eight, and he very much has this sort of king archetype because they're more refined. They sort of pull in the eight energy a little more. Uh, Appearance-wise, we'll see this sort of chiseled jawline. Their head looks like it's fit for a crown, and more of an upright posture. So here are the female queen examples. Um, so we've got Gwyneth Paltrow here. Again, they all kind of have a refinement. So you get an elegance that can come out with them. This is Maggie Smith here.
Very regal.
Yeah, very regal. These are all with Gwyneth. We can't decide between 1 and 4, but she's got them both. So all three of these women are ones right here. Julie Andrews, and then we've got Glenn Close, who's a 2. But they just seem like you could put a crown on their head and it would just look natural there. Down here, we've got Jessie Norman, who's an opera singer who plays a lot of queens in operas. Aida, and she's very good at it. And then Queen Latifah, it's not just a pun. I mean, she looks like she should be sitting on a throne. She also has warriors. She's like a warrior queen, queen warrior. And then Charlize Theron, who's likely a 7. She's playing a queen in the new Snow White movie. She's playing the evil queen.
And we all know Kate Blanchett has played queens.
Kate Blanchett's played
Right.
a few queens in her day. So, but there's this sort of regal quality you get, and particularly with the women, it's sort of more of an elegant quality. The male examples, here we have Russ Hudson, the Enneagram teacher. He looks like he should have a little crown on his head. He's probably the king scholar. Some artists in there too.
It's a very atypical archetype, so that's why we've kind of put it in here, because 5s don't typically have this archetype.
Yeah.
But you can see, and it's a little bit more obvious actually if you've met Russ and you meet him in person. You see kind of how he walks and how he holds himself. But there's sort of a leading and upright quality about the way he holds his head. He kind of puts his chin up in the air a little bit, and people sort of follow him around. And that's not typical for 5s.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you want to keep in mind, because it can run counter. Somebody might be inclined to type him as an 8 or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, if you were just looking.
Right.
Leonardo DiCaprio, he's sort of more of that prince energy, but as he ages, we may see more of the king kind of quality, like Sean Connery here. Again, looks like he should have a big crown on. This is Bill O'Reilly, another 8. Dr. Phil. They all seem to have that king quality. You can just imagine robes and someone kissing a ring kind of thing. Martin Luther King. Who is this here?
Fred
McMurray. Yes. Yeah, this is a good one. He looks also like he would have a crown on his head. So this one is more, you're looking for more of a quality. There's more of a regal, upright quality. And really the best way I can say to look for the king example is look for if it looks like they could wear a crown and it wouldn't look weird. I mean, if some people, put a crown on, it would look completely ridiculous. But these people just plop one on there and you could probably see the king.
Yeah, I mean, if this is somebody that people have sort of a reverence for, somebody that people are turning to, not necessarily for advice, but just for leadership, somebody that, I mean, even with Gwyneth Paltrow, she doesn't necessarily traditionally exemplify like a leadership quality, but you can imagine that in a group setting, people would turn to her to lead them in a certain direction, and it could also be the one-ish quality, but she has she knows the direction things are going.
Yes. Yeah, and
it's a decisive quality.
Elizabeth mentioned that she's got the queen archetype and she's a withdrawn type. So yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't really match, and it won't match for the person. There's sort of be this tendency to withdraw, like with Russ Hudson. But people are sort of looking at you and galvanized and looking at you for leadership, and you just seem like you're taking charge of a space. And so it cannot fit, and you want to look for things like that because sometimes it won't match. And those are important things to look for when typing, is our point.